Okay. Can you see my screen okay?
Yeah.
Perfect. Right, so what I'll do is just give you a small introduction about myself and also my colleague Shiva, who's also in the call and will be presenting a couple of slides. So you're not just listening to me all morning. So yeah, my name is Yunus Jakupovic. I look after the manufacturing sector for Network Science. Previously, I was at the Manufacturing Technology Centre, one of the high-value manufacturing catapults, for approximately 6 years, where I was helping manufacturers in the UK adopt and implement digital transformation technologies. And prior to that, I ran my own clothing brand for just over 3 years as well. So I've got a lot of experience in this space. I feel like my whole career has been looking after digital technologies and using digital technologies and really trying to drive business benefits in that area. And now I'm at Network Science. I actually joined recently, where I'm actually supporting manufacturing businesses for the same reasons, really. So looking at how they can use digital technologies in their business, how they can start driving benefits and continuous improvement from that as well. So today I'll be talking about the risks and opportunities in manufacturing, focusing on digital transformation. And I'll be trying to bring in some of that experience in the past and talk about some of the stories that I've got from companies that I've worked with as well. And hopefully by the end of it all, we can all learn something together. So as I said, there'll be myself and my colleague Shiva presenting. So Shiva, do you want to do a quick introduction on yourself?
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Yunus. Good morning, everyone. I'm Chervu Krishna, in short, Shiva. Coming with very close to 30 plus years of experience, especially in manufacturing, right from the erection engineer experience to the very complex real-time systems design, development, and implementing is my core strength. Working for Motherson Sumi Infotech and Designs and heading the manufacturing and IoT practice division, catering to both Motherson Group companies in manufacturing domain and outside companies across the globe. The primary area is manufacturing though, but we cater to some of the pharmaceutical, FMCG and logistic companies towards building the process automation and optimization. That's a brief about me. Thank you.
Thank you, Shiva, and you'll hear more from him as we go through the presentation this morning. So you can also see I've got the agenda up today of what we're going to be covering. So we've done the introductions briefly, so you know who we are now. Then I'm going to go through actually setting the scene in this digital manufacturing space, so we're all aligned as to what we're going to be talking about. And then I'd like to kick us off actually with an interactive session. So we'll be getting all the delegates involved this morning, and we're going to be using Mentimeter for that, but of course there'll be instructions as we go through. After we've done the interactive session, I'd like to bring us back and start talking about what are the risks and opportunities in manufacturing and focusing on the information that, from the interactive session. And then actually moving towards creating competitive advantage. So how do we turn those risks into opportunities and start being more competitive on a global scale? And then finally, we'd like to offer some advice in terms of starting your journey, how you can actually start the key steps to take and things to think about, followed by a Q&A at the end. Now, even though we've got a dedicated Q&A session at the end, there will be points throughout the morning where you can ask questions. So I'll point these out, or even tell us about your journey or talk about some of your stories as well, because we would like this to be interactive. We appreciate an hour and a half is quite a long time just to sit and listen to someone. So we'll try and get as many of you involved as possible, and please, get involved. Okay, so setting the scene. Now, you've all probably seen some sort of variation of the journey towards the fourth industrial revolution, and how we go through the different industrial revolutions. So I'm not going to spend too much time talking about the first and second industrial revolutions. We all know about the first industrial revolution, use of water and steam. And then we move into the second one, where it was all about mass production. And then the third industrial revolution is where we're trying to automate the introduction of using computers, electronics, and IT to automate production, essentially, or otherwise known as the digital revolution. And then we move into the fourth industrial revolution, which is all about being autonomous, having a smart factory, having everything connected, and implementing complete autonomy across the factory. Now, I don't want to go into too much history of these different areas, but actually what I want to do is pinpoint some key areas for you to remember and think about as we're going through the presentation. Okay, and those points are right here. So I'm hoping you can see my cursor. Smart, connected, and autonomous. So when we actually talk about the fourth industrial revolution, that's essentially what we're trying to aim towards. We are trying to create a smart factory. We're trying to connect our machines together and our systems together so we can create that autonomy, but also we can start collecting data, which in other words is looked at as information, to start making informed decisions within the business. So that's why that's really important. And the other point that I'd like to make is there's lots of hype around the fourth industrial revolution and how we're moving towards Industry 4.0. But what we need to remember is the third industrial revolution started in the late 1960s, approximately, and is still going on today. And that lots of businesses are still trying to computerize a lot of what they've got and starting to collect information within their businesses. So there's still lots of businesses out there who are doing things manually, who are even collecting some data manually on paper. And there's still lots of businesses out there using Excel to run their business and don't have dedicated systems and are just starting to move towards that space. And I think that's very important to remember, because in my experience, a lot of the businesses that I've worked with have always talked about Industry 4.0 and says we need to be Industry 4 ready, we need to be Industry 4 compliant. And then you look at where they actually are currently and they're miles behind. So it's important to remember it's a journey, and that eventually we will be smart and connected and autonomous. But to get there, there's several different steps we need to take. And we need to remember that it is a journey and that it's not going to happen overnight. So with that being said, what is the journey towards Industry 4.0? Now, I've mentioned as part of the third industrial revolution, businesses are going through that computerization stage, so digitizing a lot of what they've currently got at the moment, okay, and moving away from that manual paper-based data collection. And they're going through that as a first step. So we're implementing computers, we're starting to digitize our data, starting to track what we're doing along the shop floor, but also from a business level. And once we've done that, we're starting to move into connectivity, okay? So connecting machines together, connecting those machines to systems, and then connecting systems together as well. So we can start implementing that kind of vertical and horizontal integration within our factories. And I've drew a line here because I want to make the point that this is actually where the majority of businesses currently are now, especially in the SME space. So they're still going towards, they're still going through that connectivity phase, okay? And once we've done that, we can now start moving into more advanced technologies and concepts. And the next one is all about visibility. So once we've connected our systems together, what we're actually able to do is have visibility within the business to see what's happening. Okay, so before we see things happening in our factories, whether it's errors or products not coming out how we'd like them to, but we don't know why, we can, or even what's happening specifically, we just know it's coming out wrong. But once we start going through these steps, we have that visibility to see what's happening, okay? So we can see the parts failing or it's coming out wrong, and there'll be an error somewhere along that process to show what the error is and what's happening. But that only takes us so far. Visibility is just one step towards that ultimate phase that we're aiming for. Once we've got the visibility, what we're able to then do is create transparency within our businesses. So understand why something is happening. And this is where data is very important. Okay, so we're using that same example. When a product's coming out wrong or a part's coming out wrong, we can now see what's happening to it and even why. So it might be that we've set the wrong parameters on the machine. It might be that something is causing a blockage within the machine. It might be a temperature issue. It could be various number of issues, but actually until you have that data to understand what's happening, you don't really know why it's happening either. Okay, and that's where the data really comes into play here. So we've got transparency, and now we've started to collect data, and we've got this data. What's next? Well, then we start to develop and build predictive capabilities. So now we can start looking forward to see what will happen. So gone are the days now where we have a reactive approach, whereby a machine fails or something goes wrong in the process, and then we have to stop everything and fix it. And I've seen this at all levels of businesses, SMEs, even micro-sized to even large organizations, large businesses, where things go wrong and they just completely shut down production to try and find out what's going on. And you can imagine the delays with the lead times and the issues this causes. But actually, by going through these steps, and we've got that data, we've got the historical data, we can do analysis on that data to start predicting what's going to happen. And this can be from several different levels. This can be from a machine level, whereby we know the maximum capacity of a machine, or we know in the past at what temperature or at what capacity the machine may have failed, or whichever parameters we've got in the machine, we know when it fails or we know what it doesn't like. And because we know what it doesn't like, what we're able to do is understand when we meet those limits. And then when we meet those limits, it will give us a warning sign. That is very much the same as in your car. If you can see some sort of check engine light or some sort of warning light in your car, it's still down to you to actually go out and try and fix it, whether it's going to a garage or having a look yourself to see what's the issue. We're able to have that predictive capability, some sort of warning to say, hang on a minute, something's going to go wrong. You need to pause. And this is really powerful, and it's where a lot of businesses are trying to get to, because they don't want to be reactive anymore. They don't want those long lead times and downtimes. Okay, what they actually want to do is control what happens in their factories. And again, this is where that data, that historical data, really comes into play and is powerful. But what's beyond having that predictive capability? Well, it's all about adaptability then, and having a self-optimized factory. And this is, this is what we're aiming for, and this is what we call Industry 4.0, having this self-optimized factory where everything is completely autonomous. So within the predictive stage, what we're saying is we're able to see what's going to happen, and we'll have some sort of warning, but it's still reliant on us making the change. When we're self-optimized, those changes happen autonomously. So we're not only getting a light to say, warning, something's going to go wrong, we're actually getting information as to what's going to be changed. And this can be at various different levels. Again, it can be from a process level, whereby we're producing 1,000 blue chairs, and all of a sudden the ink, something happens with the ink, and they start coming out purple. Okay, now in the past, that process would have completed, and we would have had 900 blue chairs and 100 purple chairs. So what do we need to do? We need to fix that problem. Now what we can do with this self-optimized factory is actually recognize, through root cause analysis, we can recognize that there's an issue there, and it will stop. So it will recognize one mistake, one wrong chair, and then it won't produce those 99 other wrong chairs. So that's the kind of capability we're trying to build within our factories. And if you remember from the previous slide, we talk about being smart and connected. Well, this is what we're trying to do. But this is a journey. So I always talk about this as being a journey. No business overnight is going to be completely self-optimized because of the finances involved and the resources and even the people and the culture shock. But these are the typical steps that we need to take to get to that level. Okay, so that's all well and good, and I know a lot of people, I can't see your faces, but I know a lot of people are probably looking at this and saying, okay, yeah, we get that, we know, we've heard that, we're trying that, yeah, we get the benefits, and a lot of the times, especially with the businesses I've worked with, they don't understand why they're even doing this. And that's why it's almost 50-50. Some people, some businesses do it because they think they need to and start investing in technology and systems and so on. And some don't do it at all because they just don't see, they're fine with, let's say, just having visibility. They don't want transparency or predictive capability and so on. So how can we actually understand why we might need to start investing in this space, not just financially, but also getting our people ready for this journey? Well, it's all about meeting our customer demands. Surely all of us are in this business because we want to meet the demands of our customers and not just offer them a specific product or a specific part. And that's what we really need to think about. What's driving us? Why are we still in business? And that's because of delivering to our customers. And time again, their demands are changing. No matter what sector you're in, the demand of our customers are changing. And that's end customer, but also B2B. And these are just a few of the different areas or the different things, the different components that our customers want. So speed, delivering products quickly to our customers. They want to order it today and they want it delivered tomorrow. Okay, and this is time and time again, customers want things faster. Whether it's part of a supply chain, they need your part so they can continue their production, or if it's an end customer who's ordered something and they want it straight away. So speed is crucial here. Then it's flexibility, ability to customize products and make changes. So more and more we're seeing customers, specifically end customers, wanting to actually customize their products and make changes. So I'm sure several of you in listening today have had an issue whereby you've had an order come through, you've already started to deliver on that order, and the customer might have phoned up and said, you know what, we don't want 1,000 blue chairs, we want 500 blue, 500 red. Okay, so what we need to be is flexible in terms of delivering to that. And of course we can say yes, but what impact does that have within the factory? Our people are not expecting that. Our processes are not expecting that. But we need to be flexible because our customers want us to be flexible. Okay. Quality. So of course, high quality products or services, and on top of that, at low prices as well. And quality is one of the biggest measures or one of the biggest KPIs that lots of manufacturers, from my experience, are measuring. And not just to see, we produced this part, is it to the standard that we want it? Because a lot of the time, because of the previous steps, customers want that flexibility and that customization. So it's actually, how do we improve the quality of our products, whether it's the materials or if it's a service-based approach, how do we improve? And we're constantly looking to innovate and improve what we're doing. So quality is huge. Efficiency. So as well as all of that, great customer service and hassle-free interactions. And I'll give you an example of that. And again, I've seen this happen, so I'm hoping some of you can relate to this as well, where a customer has actually phoned up and is asking, I've been told I'm going to get the parts tomorrow. I haven't heard anything yet. Can you still deliver to that? Because I need to know, I need to let my customer know. So it's a chain reaction. They've called up and they're asking to see what's going on with their parts. Now, whoever's answered the phone has basically said, okay, give me half an hour, I'll find out for you and I'll get back to you. And that's problem number one, because this customer's phoned up and you haven't been able to tell them straight away what's going on with their part. So now, you've put the phone down and you said you're going to call them back. They're already a bit frustrated. And what happens is whoever's working in the office and has answered the phone then has to go and try and find out what's going on. So they go and speak to people, to operators and to, you know, shift managers, team leaders, whoever it is, to find out what's going on with an order. And 9 times out of 10, they would have spoke to 3 or 4 people before they find out. And they might have even been interrupted. You know, we've all been there pre-COVID anyway, where we might have been going to a meeting or we're going from A to B at work and we bump into someone in the corridor and they ask you for something or you get a phone call, you get diverted. It's natural, it happens. But actually what's happening here is you've just told your customer you'll get back to them within half an hour. And then 2 hours go by and it's taken you, 2 hours and 3 or 4 different people to speak to before you get back to them. So that's, the customer doesn't like that. He's already annoyed and it's taken a while and he might have gone on to do something else. Okay, so that's why efficiency is important. And it's one of those key problems, but you can kind of tell from looking at this slide and what we spoke about previously, how maybe some of these new technologies and processes can actually start helping us be more efficient. And then finally, on top of all of that, it's about security. So protecting our manufacturing data, but also our customer data. So when we're talking about customer data, it could be end customer, the end consumer. So GDPR is huge. We've got lots of information on people. We need to protect that. But also manufacturing data. So time and time again, especially in the aerospace sector and automotive as well, along the supply chain, the large OEM or the end customer wants data from all their suppliers, where the raw materials have came from, and who's been working on the parts. They want all the information and even machine data as well. So they're able to completely track and trace what's going on along their supply chain. So if there is an issue, they can find the root cause. But they also want that protected. They don't want their competitors finding out, their information from their manufacturing processes and all their suppliers. So security is crucial at helping us achieve all of this. And these are just a few. I'm sure there's several other KPIs or drivers from our customers, but these are some of the most common ones. Okay. So how do we link that to the journey towards Industry 4.0? What's the link? What does that actually mean? Well, we know what our customers want, what's driving us. And now we also know the journey towards Industry 4.0 and the different steps we need to take. But how do the two actually link? How can we use Industry 4.0 as not just a concept, but actually as a business model or as a competitive advantage to keep us ahead or put us ahead of our competitors and meet customer demands? And again, these are just some examples. So I can give various examples at different stages, but for this sake, I'm going to say with speed, it's all about these steps early on. So connecting our machines together on our systems and having that visibility. Okay, we can start to increase the speed. If we're doing everything manually and everything is paper-based, we're causing huge delays in our lead times. And of course, paper gets lost and there's loads of issues associated to that. So once we start connecting our machines and our systems together and we get that visibility, we get that speed, not just from a process perspective, but also an information perspective. So we use that example where I talked about efficiency of a customer calling up and asking what's going on with their parts. Now, if we've got visibility, we can get it done in a 5-minute phone call when they've called. So they've called up and said, where are my parts? Log into the system and it's simple. You can find exactly where it is because you've done this, you've got this visibility. And then, problem solved. In 5 minutes, you've solved what he's looking for and you've kept him happy. So that's where speed comes into it. And efficiency, again, a direct link. So I've used that example again, which goes hand in hand with speed and efficiency. But as an extension of that, we can understand why something is happening. So if we use that same example, a customer, he or she's phoned up and asked what's going on. This time it's not good news. There are delays. It's not going to be tomorrow. It's going to be in 3 days. But actually what we can do, because we can see why something's happening, so there might have been a delay in materials coming in, and that's all on the system. We can actually say to them, look, sorry, it's not going to be there tomorrow, but actually it's because we've had delays from our suppliers. Materials haven't been coming in on time, so we do apologize for that. But at least they know what's going on, so they can pass that on. And sometimes that's half the battle. Just knowing if there's an issue still keeps people happy. Then once we've got transparency and we've built that predictive capability, this is where quality can start to come into it now. Okay, because if we are understanding why problems are happening, we can fix them. And fundamentally, that will improve our quality, because we're not producing 100 wrong parts. We've spotted the problem. We might have produced 2 or 3 wrong parts, but we've stopped the same mistake being repeated. And therefore, as an output, we're not having rejects and we're not having products made ineffectively. So we are improving our quality by implementing this. Flexibility. So having this predictive capability, whether it's a change in order coming in, if our production processes are flexible, we're able to make those changes quickly. And if our processes are set up to do 1,000 blue chairs and someone now wants 500 red ones and 500 blue ones, it shouldn't be an issue to change the paint. I'm using a very basic example, of course, but it shouldn't be an issue. Our processes should be flexible enough to make these changes. And if we are making changes, we don't want downtime. We don't want that. Okay, and equally, we don't want to spend money on having a production line for every single product. Wouldn't it be amazing if we had one production line that can do several different variations of product? That's what flexibility is all about. And of course, security. Once you start stage 1 computerization, security becomes an issue with connectivity, visibility, etc., etc., etc. So we need to think about security every step of the way, essentially. Okay, so that's how we link these two together. But how do we actually get there? Okay, what do we need to think about? What do we need to use? What's going to help us get there? I do want transparency in my business and see why things are happening. But how do we get there? So the first part is all about digital tools and technologies. So I've named a few on there, automation and robotics, big data, artificial intelligence, and so on and so on. So of course, there is an element of investing in technology. But what's important is it's not a sake of investing in technology for the sake of it. It's actually investing in what's going to help you meet your customer demands and stay competitive. So it's about understanding the right technology for you. Okay. So what else is important? What else do we need to think about? Skills and training. So people, investing in your people and empowering your workforce. Okay. And what I'm going to say now, I was going to say at the end of this slide, but I think it's an important message. We can't do anything without alignment. So it's, of course we can invest in technology, but unless our people are on board and are ready for that change, we're never going to get the benefits from it. And actually it will go the other way. So I've got a great example here where a business that I worked with, what they implemented was a scanning system on one of their cells. So what they were able to do is actually see every part that's coming into that cell. And then also they were able to measure how long they were taking to produce, because the idea was you scan it at the beginning of the process and you scan it at the end of the process. So now we can start measuring our KPIs and implementing continuous improvement. Now they had the right idea. They didn't do a company-wide transformation. They just picked one cell. Let's see if this bit of kit works. We see what the benefits are, then we move on to something else. And actually, they called me up and said, "It's wrong. The data's wrong. It's not working. They're not getting what they want." So I looked at the data and I said, "How do you know it's wrong?" And the director said, "Well, I know how long these parts take to make." and this is completely wrong. So now actually we've got wrong data, and this is not helping us improve because it's all wrong. And he's quite frustrated. So I said, let's go have a look at the cell. Let's see what's going on. And we spoke to one of the operators, and I spoke to him in confidence. So I told the director to go away. I spoke to him in confidence, and I said, can you talk me through what you do, why you do it, what kind of problems you have? And he actually said, so bearing in mind, what they needed to do was take the part, scan it, scan the traveler that goes with it. So now we know that part has entered this station. And then we do whatever process it is, whatever we need to do, we do that. And then at the end of the process, we scan again and we pass it on. So that's what he needed to do. But actually what he was doing was taking each part, not scanning it, just doing the job, whatever it was, applying sealant or whatever it was. He was doing the process. I'm trying not to give it away. And then passing it on into the tray to go into the next station. And then when he's finished 100 parts, he was then scanning everything. So a process that might take 10-15 minutes to do was coming out as 2-3 seconds every time. And that was just one example. There was different variations of those mistakes. Some people did it like that, some people forgot to do it. And I asked him why. And he said it takes too long. It takes too long. And the business is just trying to track everything that we're doing. They want to be Amazon. Next thing you know, they're going to start tracking our toilet breaks. So it was clearly an issue there. They didn't want that. They weren't ready for it. And there was a culture issue there because they haven't gone about it in the right way. And that's why it's very important to have your people on board as early as possible. Because in the end, I went in there to try and solve a specific problem, okay, and they thought it was down to the technology. But I came out of that interaction doing a culture change piece, a strategy piece, and a visioning piece, a change management visioning piece. And the message here is, if you're going to start implementing technology or going down that route, you need to have your people on board early on. Because actually, if the business had said, look, this is our strategy for the next 5 years, here's our roadmap, in the next quarter, we're going to implement this system on this cell or this technology on this cell. The reason we're doing this is our customers want this information. We've had several complaints from our customers calling up and saying, where are my parts? We're not able to give them that information. By just scanning, and when the part comes into the cell, we now have accurate data on where these parts are. And then obviously the workers or the employees can say, no, I get that now. So I get why the business is doing that. That's really good. So then when you've got the technology in place, they're using it because they know why you're using it. They understand and they've been part of that journey. And no one likes change, but if we can explain it and talk about it in that way, it's a lot easier. And of course, training comes into that as well, and the skills side. We don't want people to be uncomfortable. We want people to know how to use it. So let's train them in the right way. So that's why there needs to be that alignment. So I talked about the technology. People are crucial. Business models and strategy. So I've kind of touched on the strategy point here, but it's really important to have a clear plan of what you need to do. But this also enables us to create new business models as well. So we can do different things with that technology, and we can be more competitive if we look at how we can utilize some of these technologies. Okay, then it's all about standards. So there are standards or frameworks out there that act as like a reference architecture for you. So for example, ISO 95, which is a reference architecture that you can follow. This is just one, and there's several other standards out there to help you. And I found them very useful as well. So sometimes it's difficult knowing how different systems interact with one another, but that's what standards are there for, to help you, to guide you. And again, it's all about alignment. And then interoperability. So when we have systems talking to each other and the transfer of data, we want to enable our business. Okay, and I've mentioned data previously, and it's really, really crucial that we have that data, because that's what's driving the decisions within the business and driving us to be more competitive. And we can do that effectively when we have machines and systems talking together. And that's where the interoperability comes into it. And then finally, cybersecurity. So investing in your security. But the key message on here is actually working with a technology partner. So a lot of the different technologies out there and the vendors out there have actually thought about the security side. So you don't need to do it all yourself. You can actually work with your vendor. So if you're buying a piece of software or a piece of hardware, ask them about the security side, because you don't want to have to worry about everything. You're buying technology from them. So see what they've done about their security and see how they can integrate that and help you even further. And as I said, the key message here is alignment. We can't do any of these in isolation because we lose that balance. We need to do them all together. So we've talked a little bit about Industry 4 and the journey and what we need to do from a technology perspective. We've talked about our customers and what's driving us to start implementing this change within the business and try to drive us moving forward. But what's actually stopping us? If we know this, why are we not being able to do this? And there's several drivers. So as I said at the beginning, for over 6 years, I've been working with businesses and trying to identify what are the barriers and try to break down these barriers so we can start now implementing and using some of these technologies and then driving that customer demand. Okay, so before I move into the next section, this is now where I'm going to ask everyone else to get involved, and it's the interactive part of the session. So hopefully I haven't bored everyone and you haven't ran away, you're still here. What I'm going to ask everyone to do is actually use Mentimeter. So on your mobile phone or separate in your browser, if you can go to menti.com and enter the code below, you'll be faced with a screen which basically just says Mentimeter, and you'll have a question on there, which is what is the size of your business? Okay, I'm going to stop presenting this slide now and then move on to Mentimeter, which also has the code, so you can get yourself prepared. But yes, we'd like everyone to get involved here. So there's a couple of basic questions at the beginning just to get a feel for the software and what we're doing, but I'm sure several of you have used Mentimeter before. So as I said, I'm going to be switching to Mentimeter now. Perfect. Looks like everyone's already, let me see if I can present this full screen. Great. Okay, so for those of you who don't have the code, it's just at the top there. So 76855831. And my Mac wants to update, so that's annoying. No, go away. Perfect. Okay. So I'm going to wait for a couple more people just in case they're trying to get this live. Okay. So Kelly Martin, I can't see the participants. So if you just want to let me know what kind of number we're aiming for, so we know when to move on.
Yeah, I would say good to go now because I think.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Right, and of course, people can still join afterwards. Right, so now it should change on your device. And for this section, you can do just one, or you can do a couple. But once you submit, it will just submit your results, and you can't do the question again. No, this is great. Nice mix of different sectors. Okay. And usually the way this one works is the most common one in the room will appear the largest. So the more people we have, let's say, putting in manufacturing, the larger that text will be. So looks like we've got a lot of manufacturers in the room, which is brilliant. Okay. Now the next one, just a bit of open text. So what are you looking for in this workshop? And it's if it's the journey towards Industry 4.0, then I think I've already done that. So that's a tick from me. So info on the journey and the pitfalls to Industry 4.0. It's great. Starting to get some of these in. This is fantastic. This is good. Which I'm happy about because it means the presentation that I've built will hopefully answer some of these. Don't know. Okay, we'll do our best. Hopefully it's useful for you. Okay, we're going to move on to the next one. Apologies if we've missed you. So now just trying to understand how connected are your manufacturing operations today. So again, if you can select one of these. So everything from manual data collection all the way to real-time optimization. Okay, perfect. So how connected is your data acquisition and management today? This is good. Okay, going to move on. Perfect. And this is very aligned to what I've seen in the industry as well. So that's good. Okay, so how do you use digital tools and technologies in your business today? So you can actually select multiple ones. And again, if you just select a few and then submit instead of one and then submitting, because it won't give you the chance to do it again. Okay, interesting. So data collection and production scheduling are the highest at the moment. That's really, really useful. Okay, so what is currently standing in your way? Okay, now with this one, I'm going to take a screenshot because I'd like to use this in the presentation as well. So, I think I cut it too small. Cut off some of the data. Okay, so the next one, what are your future plans for implementing digital tools and technologies? And again, you can enter multiple. Okay. So get expert help and research is the most common ones, and then start now, kick off a digital project. That's great. I know there's probably a couple more coming in afterwards. Okay, perfect. Okay, what would most enable you to accelerate your digital journey? Okay, that's perfect. And I think that takes us to the end. So thank you, everyone. What I'm going to do now in real time with no pressure is actually include the live information. So I think this is the one. Perfect. And I'm hoping everyone can still see my screen. Perfect. So thank you, everyone. I'm just going to double check again. Kelly or Martin or Shiva, can you still see my screen okay before I move on?
Yeah.
Yep.
Perfect. So what I wanted to do was just get a feel for in the room and where people were at. And yeah, I think it's you know, the front runner is lack of strategy and where to start. But of course, it's very close. So no digital champion, resistance to change and culture, and then legacy systems are very close behind as well. So that's very interesting to see. I would like to open the floor to see if anyone in the room would maybe like to elaborate slightly or just, you know, share their story in terms of, you know, what's currently standing in their way and what they see. So if you would like to share your story or say something to everyone, just put your name in the chat and we'll pick someone. And it's not a problem if we don't have anyone willing to nominate themselves, I'll ask Shiva to talk about the Motherson Group, because they have over 41 manufacturing sites. Sorry, they're in 41 different countries across the world. So I'm sure they've had a few barriers along the way. If you don't mind, Shiva.
Yeah, we can wait for a minute, and then I can pitch in.
Yeah, sounds good.
For sure.
Okay. Doesn't look like anyone wants to talk, Shiva. So if you want to just, maybe talk about what's been one of the biggest barriers for yourselves, what you've witnessed.
Right. If you look at the current chart, 2 points are very clear. One is lack of strategy, and second one is the legacy systems.
Mm-hmm.
If you go to any manufacturing company or any customer, these are the two major points which come up and then become I don't say showstopper, but it becomes a barrier in the way. Now, one is we need to look at the current technology. I wanted to share one of my experience. In 1989, luckily, I was in transition between industry 3.0 and 4.0 phase. We had the machines connected from India to Finland for getting the support. Now it's close to 30 years. We have the connectivity even in those days. So there are multiple methodologies which we have to figure out how we can connect to the machines, how we can connect to the people, how we can connect to the processes. So the legacy systems concept will slowly go off. You don't have to change everything overnight.
Mm-hmm.
So multiple methodologies are there to support. On the strategy, definitely it has to be from top to bottom, top down approach. It is not from bottom up approach. So we need to know, or the organization must know, if we implement this, what is the benefit are we going to get? People directly say, no, are we going to save this much manpower? It's not like that. We should not look at that way. We need to see the tangible benefits, intangible benefits also. Very recently, there was a recall from automotive car manufacturer. They recalled 75,000 cars because of a defect. Now, that particular supplier, just imagine how much pain he would have undergone to identify and then fix them. So if these systems are in place, if that can be avoided, that becomes an intangible benefit which you could have avoided. So from that point of view, you have to make the strategy, not from expenditure point of view, not from the technology point of view. What is the benefit are we going to really get after 2 years, after 3 years? How are you going to, maybe definitely you are going to talk on how are we going to be in the competition? Yeah.
That's great. Yeah, thanks for sharing your story there, Shiva. Okay, so we've discussed some of the barriers, and I'm going to move forward. And you'll hear more from Shiva shortly, actually, and I'll shut up for a bit, where he'll talk about some use cases and actually how you can start making these happen. Okay, and start really driving benefits and improvement within your business through the use of some of these technologies. Okay, so we're coming on to the risks and opportunities in manufacturing. So what are the risks? Now, we've identified these barriers and things that stop us, let's say, implementing Industry 4.0 or starting our journey or going down that route. But what's the risk if we actually don't do it? You know, what will happen if we just stay as we are and choose not to? I don't like always using the term invest in technologies, but essentially, yeah, what if we don't invest in technologies and invest in our people? What are the things that can happen? Loss of customers, the first one. That will happen. It definitely will happen. Now, lots of, again, whether it's the end consumer or you're a supplier, part of a specific supply chain, more and more data is becoming fundamental to supply chains, and a large OEM may want to know across their supply chain what's going on, where parts are coming from, the material used, people. I think I've mentioned this once already. And if we're not able to supply that information, and we're not able to maybe, let's say, offer customization of our products, we will lose customers, then they'll go somewhere else. So we need to make sure that doesn't happen. Fall behind competition. Again, kind of goes hand in hand. But if we stop, that doesn't mean that our competitors are going to stop. Okay? If anything, they're probably trying to get one over on us. So they're trying to actually be better than us, which, it does happen. So we need to make sure that we don't fall behind them. If anything, we're at the same level or we're better than them. Okay? And that's not just by saying we're the cheapest or we're the best quality. They are important. Of course they are. But from a manufacturing process point of view as well, we need to be competitive. With the data that we're able to offer our customers, we need to be competitive. Not able to keep up with market changes. So I've used Blockbuster here as an example, but there's several other businesses that go out of business or struggle, and we see it time and time again because they're not able to keep up with those market changes. They're not able to understand what their customers actually want, what the needs of their customers actually are. And therefore, one day, that customer doesn't need them anymore. And we don't want that to happen to us. Okay? Amazon, for example, have been, to the point, executed their strategy and have almost ticked all of these boxes that I've, talked about this morning, being able to offer their customers speed. So you order something, you get it quickly. A wide variety of different products as well, to an extent with certain suppliers, customization as well. And you've got information, so you know where your order is, what's going on with it all the time as well. I'm just using them as one example. But they understand that change, and you could argue that Amazon and the like have put several businesses out of business because, as soon as they go into a market and start offering a certain product, they're competing with someone whose sole business is offering that product. And of course, if they're able to do it better, people will always go to them. I know me personally, I've bought things on Amazon that haven't necessarily been the cheapest, because for me, I'm going for, I need it now. I'm on Amazon already, I need it now. I'm going to order it. It's just so easy, convenient. I know what's going on. Returns are easy. And sometimes it might not be necessarily the cheapest, and that's because my driver isn't necessarily the cheapest product. It depends on what it is, of course, and how much the difference is. But the point I'm trying to make is not every customer is going for the cheapest. So we need to bear that in mind, and we need to understand what the different changes are. There's lots of, so I was in the clothing business for 3 years, running a business, and one of the key drivers in that market was actually returns. So customers bought from certain labels or retailers because of how easy things were to return. Especially now during COVID, we haven't been able to go into shops. We've been ordering a lot online and buying multiple sizes or multiple variations of products. And actually, if it's free returns and it already sends you the label and the packaging to do that return, it's so easy. It's a lot more difficult when you've got to pay for the postage, return postage yourself. You've got to find the packaging yourself, and then you've got to either print it out or go to the post office and get it printed. So you've got to understand what the customers want and how you can use these technologies to enable their lives to be easier. And that's why not being able to keep up with those market changes is very risky. and they're not prepared for external factors. So again, I'm using the pandemic here because it's very current, it's very relevant to what we're currently going through. There's some businesses that I've spoken to, they're actually using COVID as a reason for them wanting to start investing in technology and so on, because they've been hit quite badly. But if they were prepared for this in advance, you know, they could have mitigated those risks. Now, of course, you can't prepare for every single external scenario that couldn't happen. However, if you've got some sort of infrastructure that allows you to be flexible and agile when things go wrong, you will, you know, ride out those storms a lot better than others. So these are just, again, a few reasons as to what the risks are and a few reasons as to why we can't stand still and we do need to move forward, because they will happen and they have happened. Okay. So now I'm going to hand over to Shiva again to start talking about how can we start mitigating some of these risks, and you know, what is the biggest risk in starting your journey? How can you start that journey? So Shiva, please take over at this point and let me know when you'd like to change slides.
Right, excellent, thank you. Definitely from the Mentimeter poll, two things are very clear. One is strategy, and second one I would say legacy systems, or the other point which has taken over or very close by is you have some silos of solutions. I would say pocket solutions. There can be one simple and straightforward question. Are you not using ERP in the manufacturing? Are you not using the SCADAs in your assembly lines or in the process machines? Are you not using the material picking system in your warehouses? Obviously, I would say 99% of you are already using them. If that is the case, then why the barrier, or why do you see the risk in terms of connecting to a machine? But definitely your factor of fear is genuine. Your machines are old, or the machine supplier may not extend the support if something happens. There could be a lot of fears, a lot of apprehensions. Or if you try to experiment anything with a machine, there could be a production loss, or you may not even succeed. But if you look at the slide, I try to explain how can we overcome these fear factors of connecting to the machine. At the bottom, I have just tried to explain using molding machine. Now, machine is machine. It could be molding machine, it could be a mixing machine, it could be an assembly station, it could be a blending machine, anything, right? Now, if you look at the modern age machines, you have the native connections. You can just take the Ethernet cable, connect it, and then start extracting the data using the middleware like OPC or Euromap and so on. And if you go to maybe a 2-decade-old machines, that may not be the case. You may not get what you want by connecting to the machines. Then you may have to use some external devices, external sensors. And these sensors could be for the production count. These sensors could go and then monitor your machine parameters and so on. But if you try to even do that, there is nothing harm you are creating to the machine. You are going to only connect from the sensors, and you can easily do that. I'll talk about what kind of connection is going to give what impact. The third one is on the hardware, hardwiring. You don't have to even do anything. You just put a data concentrator and keep on collecting the data, what is required. If you are looking at, say, for example, from the machine only to capture the production count, whether the machine is running or not, or you set up some equipment where you wanted to see the alerts. Now you can use an external sensors, external way of connecting to the machine to capture the data. You don't have to connect to the machine to see entire things. But when you do that, so what is the benefit are you going to get? Because that is where the strategy comes into picture. It is not connecting to the machine. You may connect to the machine, but what is the benefit are you going to get? Now you get the production count, so you eliminate the manual logbooks. You get the downtimes, you eliminate manual logbooks, you alert the maintenance team upfront, and so on. So that is one level of benefit you are going to get. Now, when you try to apply, when you try to put more sensors which measures the electrical, mechanical, and equipment parameters, then you are going to the next level. You may get information on the machine, like which you can even analyze and predict whether it is running with the required set of parameters, set of measurements, or is there a chance of failure. Let us consider one simple mechanism. Most of the players will talk about vibration and bearing example. I'll just go away from that and then I try to explain a motor which is pumping something into your operation. Now, if the current drawn by the motor is disturbing or it is beyond a limit, then you can predict there is something wrong with the motor. Then someone has to look at the healthiness or health check of the motor. It's a very simple use case, like how you do it in the bearings. That is going to save a lot from unplanned downtime. So you have gone from external connection to the internal connection. One more level, if you go and then get into the native connectivity, then what is going to happen? You are going to even look at the process part of it. Now, you have to do the injection for X number of seconds at a particular pressure, and you have to cool for a particular time, and you have to withdraw at a particular time. So everything is measured thoroughly, and that is going to give lot of insight on your quality. So that initially you may feel, okay, these process parameters you cannot analyze because they are all discrete in nature. But once you get these parameters continuously, you can build a lot of algorithms on that, which is going to save a lot of cost on your rejections. Certain rejections may not be visible today. By looking at the part what you produce, you may declare it as pass or fail, okay, not okay. But after a period of time, that may fail. And that can be predicted even using these parameters. So one is you should be open to adopt different mechanisms of connecting to the machines so that your legacy barrier you are trying to overcome. Then you need to create a strategy in terms of what is the benefit are we going to get. And these two, if you club together, then definitely whatever 4 points Zunair has explained, you are going to overcome very safely. And that is what I am going to explain in my next slide. Zunair, next slide, please. So I have taken one of the different use case. I don't want to go in a very traditional way of explaining the predictive maintenance use case using the Industry 4.0 as a background. So I have taken one example of assembly line. You can see on the left-hand side the number of stations. There are 4 stations here: station 10, 20, 30, and 40. All these stations form an assembly line. Now, each station has got certain operations to perform, and each station has got certain set of parameters to capture. And assuming that each station is also having a PLC so that we capture the data from it. What is the normal tendency? Now, when you do assembly, when you do testing on each station, the PLC is going to verify your upper limit and lower limit and on a discrete basis, it is going to declare whether the part is passed or failed, okay or not okay. Now, if it is okay, it goes to the next station. If it is not okay, they may do retest or reassemble it. And it completes station 10, 20, 30, 40. And end of line inspection, they will see everything is clear and they will dispatch to the customer. Now, why all these automotive recalls are coming? Why there are a lot of batches are withdrawn? The reason is when you look at these parameters and their inspection methodologies, they don't do a correlation. Now, a parameter in station 10, let us assume the pressure is having an influence of parameter in station 40, which is a leak measurement. So these kind of analysis you are not doing, you are dependent on the discrete values of the PLC and declaring the result, which in turn goes to the customer and then comes back as a challenge to you that the part whatever has been delivered has been found not okay. Now, the thought process is when you look at the data acquisition, this particular use case is it starts from data acquisition. From each station, we have to collect the data. Now, this data acquisition is not talking about showing the equipment efficiency, showing the downtime. They're all by default, you will get it. When you implement, when you collect the data, by default, you will get everything. And Jonas has explained one very practical example. In the end of line inspection, a part comes out, he has to scan the part and he inspects, keep it aside. Second part comes, inspect, keep it aside. And after 10 parts, he scans 10 parts in one shot and declare the result. That is not genuine because you have to look at, you have to inspect only then you know even the operator is attentive, performing according to your standard operating procedures. So that can be even ensured when you collect the data here. But the point is, it is not the question of data collection. It is not the question of OE and those things. Now, how are we going to correlate? On the right-hand side, top side, you can see there are two small red boxes, which gives the correlation between the parameters. Now, a part which is declared by the station as pass, when it goes to the third station, the correlation with the parameter, the system, the algorithm detects that the part is not really a pass. You have to suspect that. So it could be a suspect, not a state pass. Similarly, a part which is rejected in station 20, if we correlate with other parameters and with our history, even we can identify whether this part can be made pass instead of making rejection. Now, what is going to happen with this? One is by default, all your standard requirements have been achieved. And also you have used the data with your analytics or with your algorithms to even control the quality. And in turn, you are going to reduce your defects, which is very specifically post-delivery defects. And that is very hard to handle. Okay. So when you make a plan, the strategy, the vision, when you make a plan, don't start, okay, I collect the data, I publish OE. Don't start and stop there. Make a plan, step by step, collect the data, you get these KPIs. Then collect some more parameters, go to the next level of KPIs, collect third set of parameters, go to the algorithms and other things. So when you look at connectivity, visibility, transparency, predictability, you have to go beyond that. I hope we can correlate this use case with any of the production use case, and we are open for any questions or discussions at this point of time or at the end. Thank you.
Thank you, Shiva. Yeah, so I'm just conscious of time. We can just go through because there's only a few more slides, and then take some questions from the audience at the end, and we can do that together. Okay, so yeah, thank you for presenting those use cases. Okay, so the next part is how do we use these to create competitive advantage? Because that's fundamentally what we're trying to do, meet our customer demands and create competitive advantage. And again, these are just a few points. So firstly, from a maintenance point of view, we can now do preventative maintenance instead of reactive, which of course saves us time, money, reduces lead times, etc. And I talked about this example earlier on this morning, so I won't touch too much on it. But maintenance is, it's a huge point for us, and a huge area for us to start generating continuous improvement and opportunities. New customers, okay? So offering traceability that competitors may not be able to. And again, I've talked about this example slightly, but it's a real fundamental area. At the moment, there's still a common theme that, of course, not all of our customers are going to choose us depending on if we offer traceability or not. However, more and more, especially in aerospace and even in the automotive sectors, and I think as well in food and drink, the large OEMs or the end customers from this point of view want that traceability because they want to be able to offer it to the consumers, but they also want to have access to that as well. And there's several drivers for why, but of course, having that capability will keep you competitive and give you new customers or keep your existing ones. So that's an area that is going to be really hot in the next few years from a manufacturing point of view, and being able to offer that is a huge win. Empowered workforce. So making informed decisions and getting it right instead of guessing and get wrong. And I've seen this time and time again in businesses where they don't actually have any information backing up what they're saying. It's just a hunch or a feeling or something that they know. And it can be accurate. The information can be correct because they're experienced or they might have seen it, but you can't just count on that all the time. And what we want to do is empower our workforce so they all have the information there. So if someone asks them a question, they've got facts to back it up. Okay, and it empowers our workforce. It makes them feel more comfortable as well making these decisions. So that's a really big opportunity there, because keeping our workforce happy and empowered is crucial for moving forward. And being prepared, this one is more than anything relevant in this current climate with COVID, but having the infrastructure to ride out the storms, essentially. We shouldn't wait for something bad to happen to force us to invest in this space. And it's human nature that we don't actually buy something or get something in place until something bad happens. But I think what this has taught us is we need to be prepared. And it doesn't have to be a global pandemic. It can be just a simple issue of something along the supply chain. But if we have the right infrastructure and we're prepared, we can get through this a lot better. And that's how we can use some of these points to start creating that competitive advantage. And imagine being able to offer that kind of security to your customers to say, look, if problem X, Y, and Z happens, we're ready. We've got things in place to mitigate that. So how do you start your journey? What should you do? Well, this is, coming from a recommendation from me, and from the experience that I've had, this is where a lot of businesses fail. It's nothing to even do with technology at the beginning, but it's all about strategy development. And it was very clear from the Mentimeter questionnaire and results that a lot of you are keen to actually start your journey and develop a strategy as a kind of first exercise to kick off your journey. So how do we do that? Well, first, let's build a vision. Where do you want to be as a business? And how do you think digital transformation will play a role? So that's all about, you can say, these are our customer demands and this is what's driving me. So this is what I want to be able to deliver in the next 5 years. Okay, and then how do you want to deliver that? What technologies do you think will help you or enable you to deliver on those customer demands? So now you know where you want to be. The next part is all about assessing where you are currently. So I would say conduct some sort of maturity assessment to understand where your business is in terms of its current capabilities and its current technologies. And then what you can do is you can compare this against the vision. And then what that will give you is the gaps, and it will give you the points you need to address quickly. And sometimes this can be the biggest gap, might be the go-to area, but sometimes it could be the smallest gap, because actually from getting to from A to B, from where you are to where you want to be, it might just be a small change that you need to implement. So do your vision and then do your current state maturity assessment. Okay, and there are various vendors and consultancies and groups that can help you do this if it's something that you're struggling with yourselves. And once you've done this maturity assessment, then it's all about moving into strategy development. So I've put here, after conducting steps 1 and 2, you'll start to identify the gaps. Okay, and that will allow you to create a strategy. And of course, you can literally just identify all the different gaps and then start picking which ones to go at. You can even start building business cases for them and saying, look, our biggest driver in terms of our customers is, let's say, quality. And if we don't deliver on this quality in 3 years, we could lose this customer, or we could lose a large proportion of our customers and money, etc., etc. And that's how you can start building your business case then, and looking at what that means financially. How much money will you lose? And then look at the solution for improving that KPI, for, let's say, quality. And once you've got that, you can then measure or assess the cost of getting it wrong or not doing it versus the cost of implementing it and getting it right, and make a decision as a business as to if it makes financial sense. And in most cases, it will. So identify these gaps and how you think you need to close these gaps from a technology perspective. And then finally, an action plan. So it's all well and good having a strategy in a presentation or on a page or in some sort of document, but actually assigning stakeholders and resources to points on the action plan, whether it's split into different work packages or activities, you need an action plan, and you need to assign people to that action plan. So this person's responsible for this part of the strategy, this person's responsible for that, and in that way you've got everyone on board within the business and share that responsibility. So this is what I would say you need to do as a first step to try and go towards that point. And the reason a maturity assessment is really crucial is because what it can do is actually give you a breakdown of all the different areas. So for example, product customization, automation, product and services, inventory control, etc., etc., and actually let you know where you are against each of those points. And then you can identify what you need to improve. So for example, if we take automation, and you're really weak on machine and operation system integration, then that could be a key activity on your strategy and your action plan to work on. Okay, so maturity assessments are really powerful, and as I said, there's several vendors and companies out there who can help you with this, and that would be my kind of go-to bits of advice. And to finally summarize, everyone has a different journey, and that's the crucial point. Not everyone's journey is identical. It's not one size fits all, and it's very difficult to copy as well. So what works for one business may not work for another, because we all have different starting points, and we also have different infrastructures within our businesses. So it's important to remember that, and also compete against yourself first before you start looking externally, because you can make the wrong decisions based on what someone else is doing. So I'd like to thank you all for joining us this morning. As I said, my name is Eunice Jakupovic. I've been one of your presenters today, and this is also Krishna, or Shiva as I call him, from Motherson. I hope we've taken you for a journey today. I've used journey quite a bit, and I hope you found what we talked about very useful. And of course, our details are here, and we're more than happy to have you just reach out to us, even if it's just to ask us any questions on what we've talked about, or you just like some advice. We're here to help, and I know the guys from K3 are also here to support you if you need it. So thank you very much. I'm going to hand you over to Martin if he wants to maybe run some questions and so on. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, Yunus. That was good, very informative, good interactive session as well. Have we got any questions? Kelly, do you know if any questions come in?
No questions have come through the chat. You can unmute yourself, everybody, if you do have any questions for us, or feel free to just pop in the chat, and we'll be sending feedback questionnaire afterwards as well, so you can also ask questions there if you feel more comfortable.
Just one question for you, Yunus, that's just come through, asking about sort of timescales typically on these things, when you're talking about building the vision and planning. I mean, what, in your experience, obviously, what sort of timescales do people aim for on these things?
Yeah, really good question, actually. And it depends on how serious you are about it. But typically, I would say spend between 3 to 5 weeks really getting it right. Of course, you need to get different people involved. So a lot of the time when I've ran these workshops with businesses and supported them, I tend to try and have people from finance, people from the shop floor, the factory involved, operators, as well as people running the business. Because sometimes the people running the business don't necessarily see all the issues on the shop floor, and it's the guys who are working day to day on the shop floor that understand all the issues. And that's why you need to run various workshops as a team and get everyone involved. And we know time is precious, so that's where the kind of 3 to 5 weeks time comes into it. And of course, the level of detail you want to go to, you can do a quick assessment of where you are, or you can really go into all your manufacturing processes and do it. So yeah, 3 to 5 weeks.
Okay. Another question here. Do you happen to know, might be something we take offline, but do you happen to know if there are government incentives or grants for this sort of thing available? Have you come across these sort of things? Do you know?
Yeah, definitely. So as part of Made Smarter, which is the UK initiative in Industry 4.0, funded by government, of course, they identified areas that businesses in the UK need support, and one of those was funding. So what they did a couple of years ago was launch what they called the Northwest Pilot Adoption Programme. So in the Northwest region of the UK, they assigned, I think it was approximately £10 million of funding for any businesses wanting to get into this space. Of course, it was competitive, so you have to write a bid and outline exactly what it is that you'd like to do, who you'd like to work with, or which vendors you want to work with. And they did that as a pilot scheme, and it was very successful. And the government's actually, I think early this year or late last year, authorised and launched the rollout of that programme, which they're calling a national adoption programme. And the next region that's going to get funding is actually the West Midlands. But of course, because of COVID, I think the timelines on releasing that funding haven't been released yet, but there will be funding, and that's at a national level. But of course, there's local activities as well. So if you talk to your local councils and speak to them about what initiatives they've got, 9 times out of 10 there is something available, because access to funding is a key issue. But I think a lot of businesses don't recognise there is that support available. You just need to look for it.
Okay, and so do you get the funding? Just another question here on the funding side. Do you get the funding as part of for the workshops, or is it for the implementation, or is it a combination of both, sort of thing?
Combination of both. So different schemes have different models.
Right.
Some models. So for example, I was part of a program called IoT for Industry, which was funded by Horizon 2020, so European initiative, where we had grant funding available for businesses in the form of a voucher. So you could apply for a grant funding of up to 60,000 euros per company, and then you can use, let's say, 5k for a strategy piece and have some external support, and then maybe use the rest of the 55k as an example to invest in some technology and implement that. And then as well as that, there's other similar schemes across Europe where they offer vouchers. So that voucher might be, for example, 1 month of consultancy support from vendor X, vendor Y, etc. So there's various schemes, European and national, and they have different models.
Okay, good. I'm just wary that we've just run over nearly 10 minutes, Kelly. So unless there's any other questions, we should probably call an end to the proceedings. But yeah, thank you everyone for joining us this morning. I see we've still got quite a few on this morning. Just one quick question for you, Shiva. Sorry.
Yeah.
Talking about the work that you've done. I mean, how when you were going through your metrics, how have you sort of like marked your metrics, as it were, when you were talking about your production optimization?
Right. One is when we try to look at the requirement, we look at from use case point of view.
Okay.
Now, different set of manufacturing systems is having different set of use cases. Now, in that particular use case, like Jonas was explaining, we need to prepare a maturity. We have a small framework. We get into how exactly are they designed the system, how are they following, what are the pitfalls, or how can they improvise that. For example, the material feeding. Now, normal system for material feeding is you keep on filling the material in assembly lines, and at the end of the shift, they do the production booking, and they identify a lot of stock mismatch. Rather, you give the material, you ask for the accounting for every hour, you match the material issued versus material consumed, then there will not be no major mismatch. So we need to look at as a use case and then prepare the matrix.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Well, thank you everyone. We're just nearly 10 minutes over. Thanks Eunice, thanks Silva, thanks Kelly for setting this up.
Thank you.
Yeah, if you'd like any more information after on any of the things we've discussed, then please do drop an email to Kelly when she emails you to thank you for your participation this morning. So thank you for your time. Hope you've enjoyed it, and we'll leave you there. Thank you.
Thank you, Martin, Kelly, and thank you everyone.
Thank you. Take care.
Thank you.